Nigerians, you all have known that the Nigerian judiciary is not the last hope of a common man. Because with the last tribunal judgment, shows clearly they didn't base their judgment on technicalities. Rather, they disregarded completely the constitution. You all heard it when they said that the beavers, which the federal government spent over 400 billion naira to acquire in order to give Nigerians credible election, that the beavers or the electronic transmission of result is not mandatory.
1. A declaration that the respondent has no power to opt for manual method other than electronic method provided for by the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act. 2. An order of this Honorable Court directing or compelling the respondent to comply with the Electoral Act 22 on electronic transmission of results in the forthcoming general election. In its judgment in Exhibit X1, the Federal High Court held as follows. In view of the foregoing, can the act of the defendant in collecting and transferring election results manually in the forthcoming 2023 general election be said to be contrary to the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act 2022? The answer can only be in the negative, as there is nowhere in the above cited section where the Commission or any of its agents is mandated to only use an electronic means in collecting or transferring of election results. If any, the Commission is only mandated to collect and transfer election results and number of accredited voters in a way or manner deemed by it. In view of the above, I am finding that by the provision of sections 52 and 65 of the Electoral Act 2022, the correct interpretation of said statute is that the defendant, Independent National Electoral Commission, is at liberty to prescribe the manner in which election results should be transmitted and are so whole. Consequently, this matter is hereby dismissed.
That is what the judge said. I had it myself. But you remember this video when I brought to you earlier before now, when INEC, in fact, watch them again.
Section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022 makes it mandatory that to vote, the presiding officer shall use a smart card reader or any other technological device that may be prescribed by the Commission for the accreditation of voters to verify, confirm, or authenticate the particulars of the intending voter in the manner prescribed by the Commission. So the use of the beavers is a mandatory provision of the law and is not an option of charity. The Commission does not have a discretion on whether to use the beavers or not. The law says that we shall and must use the beavers, and this Commission is committed to using the beavers because we spend so much time, we spend so much energy, and we spend resources in putting together the beavers. The beavers was developed by the Commission's in-house engineers as a way of making sure that identity theft is minimized as much as possible at our polling units. So we cannot spend time, resources to develop the beavers and then throw it away and say we won't use it again. It doesn't make sense.
Now INEC talk this one, oh. Now INEC talk quoting the Nigerian Constitution, quoting the provision, reading it out that makes it mandatory for INEC to transmit that result electronically. Now let's keep that one aside, the technicality. I don't know what they based it on. The 25%, they disregarded it completely.
Well, in resolution of this issue, basically borders on the interpretation of Section 134, subsection 2B of the 1999 Constitution. The appropriate starting point for the resolution of this issue, therefore, is to reproduce, for ease of reference, Section 134(2)A and B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, the interpretation of which is in quotation. It reads thus: a candidate for an election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected, where there being more than two candidates for the election. A, he has the highest number of votes cast at the election, and he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. The contention is as to the interpretation to be accorded to paragraph B of subsection 2 of section 134 quoted above. In particular, the contention is whether or not by the wordings in that paragraph, a candidate must, in addition to scoring not less than 1/4 of the votes cast in at least 2/3 of the states in the Federation, also score 1/4 of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, before he can be deemed to have been duly elected. In other words, whether in determining 2/3 of the states of the Federation in the Federal Capital is to be included and regarded as one of the states of the Federation, or his status is to be regarded as distinct from the other states of the Federation, such that scoring 1/4 of votes in the FCC is a mandatory requirement for a candidate to be deemed duly elected as president. Are we to observe first that, with all due respect to counsel to the petitioners, their interpretation of Section 134, subsection 2B of the Constitution, founded principally on a fixation that the word "and" appearing between the phrases, "he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is completely fallacious, if not outrightly ludicrous. The futility and hollowness in the argument of the petitioners that the votes of the voters in the FCT, Abuja, have more weight than other voters in the country, to the extent of their votes purportedly have a veto effect on other votes, is rendered bare. That notwithstanding, let us still proceed to consider, for whatever it is worth, their interpretation of Section 134, subsection 2B of the same 1999 Constitution, which incidentally centers around the word "and" in that provision. The word and Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, do not by any means imply the meaning imputed to it by the petitioners. In any event, Section 299 of the Constitution dispels any lingering doubt that may still be existing in anyone's mind by stating that the provisions of this Constitution shall apply to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as if it were one of the states of the Federation. It is also my considered view that if the framers had wanted to make scoring 1/4 of votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, a specific requirement for the return of a presidential candidate, they would have made that intention plain by using words that clearly separate the scoring of 1/4 of votes in the Federal Capital Territory as a distinct requirement. As expressly stated in Section 299 of the Constitution, for the purposes of fulfilling the requirements of Section 134, subsection 2B of the Constitution, for return of a presidential candidate as duly elected, the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is to be treated as one of states in the calculation of 2/3 of the states of Federation, such that if the candidate polls 25% or 1/4 of votes in 2/3 of 37 states of the Federation, FCT Abuja inclusive, the presidential candidate shall be deemed to have been duly elected, even if he fails to score 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as the second respondent did. In conclusion, I hold without any equivocation that in a presidential election, polling 1/4 or 25% of total votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory is not a separate precondition for a candidate to be deemed as duly elected under Section 134 of the Constitution. In consequence, issue 4 is also resolved against the petitioners and in favor of the respondents.
So it is clear, it is absolutely clear that the last hope of a common man in Nigeria is not the judiciary. Because we've had crop of corrupt individuals. You know, when I say that the Nigerian corruption has become an institution, is even an understatement. Impunity, total disregard to rules is reigning supreme in Nigeria today. As we have it in the court, they have demonstrated that even a layman that did not study law can understand this one in black and white. That is Nigeria. Who is lying to who? Will you say that INEC is lying or putting out of context the constitution, the provision of the constitution. Are we talking about the 25%? They disregarded that one completely. We stated clearly that 6 states and the Federal Capital Territory that you must have 25%. Even an Attorney General brought it out on this platform several times. I'm not going to bring it out again. Now you say, why are you lamenting? You talk too much. Yes, I talk too much because Nigerians are not listening enough. Because if they have listened enough, what happened in Sri Lanka should have been happening in Nigeria by now. So we keep talking, and we hope that it will ignite Nigerian people to wake up from their slumber and free themselves, because we are slaves in Nigeria. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. Those ones that say it is their turn, it is not the Yoruba people's turn. It is Tinubu's turn and that of his political associates. Take it or leave it. It's not the turn of the Fulanis or the Hausas or the Igbos. It is the turn of the corrupt politicians who have made your lives miserable. It is left for you to decide to keep being divided and ruled by this politician, being used against yourself, the poor against the poor. Be wise. I'll keep speaking until Nigerian people wake up. I'll keep exposing these things until it gets to the point that Nigerians say enough is enough. Because ultimately, now we will be Nigerians, whether from the east, north, west, south, whether Christian, Muslim, or traditional worshipper, it doesn't matter. We are all victims of this country, this failed state called Nigeria. I'll keep exposing it. It is my commitment to wake up the consciousness of the people, to preach good governance to you. But it can never happen with the crop of political misleaders you have today, who have hijacked power. They hijacked the power. Nobody voted them in, and they can't prove otherwise. Help me share this video if you want more Nigerians to get this message. Bye-bye for now.